You're listening to the Prosperity Report Love and Money podcast. Find out what every couple needs to become a winning team in love and money. We bring you actionable ideas from expert therapists and experienced married couples, helping you stay happily married longer. Stay tuned until the end. We'll leave you with a tip you can start using today in our 5-minute activation segment. Now here's your host, best-selling author, speaker, and psychotherapist, Kanae Corder.
Welcome everybody. I want to say a special welcome to my Prospros. How are you enjoying the all-new Prosperity Club? I hope you love it as much as I loved creating it for you. If you have any questions or comments, reach out to me on Instagram. You can go to kanaecorder.com/Instagram and leave me a DM. I'm really good at getting back to my Instagram followers. And make sure you follow me while you're there. I also want to give a special hello to my FinCon listeners. So from August 1st to September 25th, all the episodes will have guests from FinCon. And if you don't know what FinCon is where money and media meet. It's a financial conference for money nerds like me. I've spoken at FinCon for the last 2 years, and I've met some really great people. And I wanted to introduce them to you, because I'm a part of two communities. I'm part of the financial community as well as the wellness community. And right now I want to introduce you to my financial friends. And later I'll introduce you to my wellness friends. But in the meantime, let's get into today's show. And don't forget to listen all the way to the end for our 5-minute activation so you can learn a tip that you can start using today. On today's show, we talk to someone who is also dedicated to helping couples improve their financial lives. I heard Jill on the Saver and the Spender podcast and loved her story. I wanted to have her on the Prosperity Report because I felt that people could connect with her story. I felt like Jill could help people become more aware, authentic, and committed to their financial growth just by listening to her story. So I won't go into what her story is. I'll let her tell it. So let's jump right in. Please join me in welcoming our guest today, Jill Emanuel. Hey, Jill.
Hey, Kanae. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So you have such a great story. And before we go into it, I have this one question I want to ask you. And it's, what is your idea of prosperity?
Oh, I love this question. I think it's so great because as everyone's going to hear kind of about my story, I think my idea of prosperity has changed so much over the last several years. I know, like earlier in my adult life, definitely when I heard the word prosperity, I would think about money and wealth and kind of this like striving to get there. And now it's so different because I hear the word and I think about what it means to prosper. And I just think about growth and, well-being and evolving and like striving towards, something new and better. And so to me, it's like a really motivating word now, whereas before it felt like this word of like lacking. Yeah, I love it. I love word prosperity. So I think we all have it.
Absolutely. And I love that you said the difference. Like it started with this like constraining lack and, maybe feeling like you're not measuring up, this negative side. But then after your work, it now has this really meaningful, it seems lighter, like,
yeah. So much.
So that's so awesome. So tell me, what shifted your ideas after going through the program? Is that when it shifted, or was it somewhere in the middle of the program, or was that what got you in the program?
I don't know if there was ever any conscious shift. I think now just looking back over it, I can see that somewhere everything changed. But I think to make a shift like that, it's definitely a progress, right? So you have to be like taking one step in front of another. And as you keep moving ahead and moving forward, it just evolves along with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into your story a little bit. Let's start with where you realized
I think you told a part about like your husband was stressed out and, and you're looking at him like, oh my goodness, I've never seen him like this.
Yeah.
Kind of tell that story where
Yeah.
it just was straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing.
Right. Well, my husband had a background in IT. He had gone back to school, got his master's degree, and he was working as a project manager. And I could see over the months just how extremely stressed he was. I mean, it just got worse and worse every week. The company that he'd been working for was not doing well. And so every day he'd come home and a new person was laid off. He didn't know if he was going to have a job the next day. He didn't know if he was even going to get paid because their paychecks stopped coming regularly. They were like getting handwritten checks. And I woke up one morning and found him in our hallway bathroom, and he was clutching his chest and struggling to breathe. And I thought, oh my God, I have to call 911. My husband's having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And he just started bawling, and he was like, I can't go back there anymore. I can't go back to that job. And it was such, I mean, still I think about it, I get really emotional because it was such a huge wake-up call, I think, for both of us about how stressful that moment was, how stressful life had become. It had destroyed him. I mean, he had no faith in himself and very little self-worth because of what was happening to him all day long at that job. And we'd been talking about it for months. We'd seen the writing on the wall. The company was going under. And we were like, what are you going to do? Like, you have to get out of there. And that day was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And we said, you're done. You're going in and quitting today. Like, this is too much. We'll figure it out. I'll go back to work full time because I'd been working part time. And I was like, in the meantime, you can look for a new job and we'll be fine. We'll figure this out.
Okay. So basically you weren't really prepared for.
No, not at all. I mean, like I said, we'd talked about it for months, like this idea of you need to get out of that place, right? But we had no plan that was really in place. It was, in hindsight, kind of a stupid thing to do. But it was also so necessary, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's like we look back now and we're like, wow, that one choice really led to the most challenging 6 months of our marriage thus far. But it also led to just a whole new way of life that we wouldn't change for the world.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. So as a therapist, one of the things that I find is that when couples go through that hard time, they see it as the end. And you just described it as, it sounds like, as like a whole new chapter in your relationship. Yeah. And I think it's so important for couples to see that, because nowadays divorce is so easy to say, right? It's, I'm just so tired. I got to get out of this, right? Instead of saying, how do we work through this? How do we get to the other side? What is on the other side? And as a therapist, I've seen so many couples get to the other side and how beautiful it is. Of course, when you're going through it, it doesn't feel beautiful.
No. And, you saying that, I'm like, those 6 months were definitely, I mean, there were moments where we were like, are we actually going to survive this? What are we doing? Why are we in this? Feelings of blame and so much negativity happening because of the financial strain that we were feeling, because of the emotional toll that all of that had taken on my husband and his kind of recovery from that. So yeah, I mean, there were very serious moments of doubt and wondering how we would ever get through. And thank God we did. Thank God we're too stubborn to to give up on it,
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Would you say that maybe your foundation from before the struggle, that foundation you had in place, maybe that held you guys together?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're Christians. Both of our parents were married forever.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, it's all that we know. We just, in our minds, there was no other alternative. And so that kind of, I guess, made it, even though it was so hard, made it a little bit easier for us just to be like, all right, we got to see this through, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what support system did you have in place as you were going through this time?
Oh, honestly, we kept a lot of it to ourselves. It was a really embarrassing time. We got into a lot of financial debt as he had left his job. And, like I said, we didn't really have a plan in place. So our families and friends as much as they're loving and supportive, I think they were thinking like, what the heck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Because he just quit his job on kind of a whim. Not that it was a whim, but
Yes.
one day it was
the
done.
outside looking in. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And because of that, initially we were really excited and it felt like such a relief to have made that choice. And then as the months went on and he hadn't found a new job, we were accruing more and more debt, putting things on credit cards. I was working more and more hours. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't really want to share that with everyone. We didn't want to share that we were struggling so much. And then as things even became more negative with our relationship, it was even more challenging, I think, to share it with others. So we kind of lived in a bubble, I think, for like 6 months where we didn't share very much of what was happening, and probably to our detriment. I think it would have been more helpful had we been a little bit more open about talking to each other and about talking to others to look for more support.
Yeah. And at the same time, you had children.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So the extra layer on it, we had 2 little boys who at the time were almost 2 and 4.
Oh,
so yeah, little ones that demanded a lot of attention. And I had gone back to work full time, but I was actually working per diem and they needed lots and lots of hours. So I was working like 70 hours a week for quite a long time. It was really hard, just that I was physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. My husband was exhausted because he was home with the little ones all day and frustrated that he hadn't found new employment. And of course, the debt was racking up. So just one more layer. It was a really trying time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, as a therapist, I'm looking at all the emotions that can stem from all of these different things, as a provider, not being able to provide for your family. And then human nature is just, like you said, the blame is to say, well, what are you not doing? Because
right.
You should have a job by now.
Yeah.
And don't you see how hard I'm working over here? And then it's like, well, don't you see how hard I'm working over here? And you don't see each other's struggle.
Right.
And even though you're going through the struggle together, that bond and that team is broken and you sort of become divided.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is counterintuitive because you need each other so much during this time.
Exactly. It was like we were battling each other to come out together, and that doesn't always work so well, right? So
no, it does not. So that's why on this show, you'll hear me say becoming a winning team in love, life, and money. And I think the team part of that is the biggest thing, is a lot of times when couples come in, they want to blame one or the other. Like, well, she does this and he does this. And then I'm like, well, whatever she does, you guys do, because you're you're a team. So it happens to all of you, both of you, and really the whole family, including the children. So you've got to at some point decide to just be a team. Even when it feels like you're divided, you've got to find ways to bring it back to the team.
Yeah, exactly.
So after the 6 months, what changed?
So at about 6 months in, we had accrued almost $50,000 in credit card debt. I was still working insane hours. And I think I was just reaching that breaking point of like, how can I keep doing this when I see we're only getting more and more in debt? Like it wasn't helping things, It's like, it's one thing if you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it just kept getting worse. And so I always will remember the day, but I was driving down the street after work. I'd called my husband because I just checked the bank account and we were almost down to zero again. And I called him on my way home and I was, just mad, right? Like just that frustration and anger and, not at him, but at the situation. And I was like, you can't get gas this week because we're going to overdraw the account. And it was like Wednesday or something. And I'm like, you have to go the rest of the week and not get gas. And I hung up the phone and I just started bawling. I was so distraught that we're in this place. Like, how did we get here where we can't even put gas in our car? And I called one of my girlfriends. She answered the phone and of course I'm like sobbing already. And she was like, what is going on? And I was like, I think we're going to have to file bankruptcy. Like, I don't know how we're going to do it. And so she heard me out for a little bit and she said, listen, I have someone that you need to talk to. And so that was really the turning point where she referred us to her financial coach. which was at Physical Fitness, where I coach now. And she had never told us that her and her husband were seeing a financial coach. So I think that's so huge, because we all keep those things to ourselves. Like no one's proud to announce that they need help with their money. Right.
Right.
So
That's not going on the Facebook post.
No, not really.
No.
So, it's like they had been working with her for 2 years, and these were our very best friends, and we had no clue. And so we got the referral over there. We had to charge the first appointment to a credit card that was nearly maxed out because we didn't have any money in the bank. And I think I cried through almost the entire first session.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. But afterwards, we finally had some hope. We definitely saw that maybe there was a way out of it, and maybe there was a system that we could use that would change things. And that was what we needed. Absolutely. It was just that ray of hope that we could make progress.
So what did you think filing bankruptcy was going to do?
You know what? Now I coach people, I'm like, it's not that big a deal. Like, not that it's not a big deal, but I felt like I would be such a failure. Like, to me, it was just like this sign that I had just failed in life. And that's not what it is at all. I mean, it definitely is there for a reason and helps people tremendously when it's appropriate, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But for me, it was just this, definition of who I was. And the thought that I couldn't provide and I wasn't successful and that I'd let my family down. And it just, it was so devastating to think that we would wind up going down that road.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how you said is when it's appropriate, because sometimes people do use bankruptcy just to start all over, to start that same
right
over.
Yeah.
And sometimes people have just something has happened, like maybe there's medical or a business failed, whatever.
Right.
Even sometimes after divorce. So I know that bankruptcy has its place, but I think it has become so commercialized that it's just like, oh, can't pay your bills, file bankruptcy.
Right.
Not change your mindset. No, not that.
And don't change
go to jail for coaching.
That's so true. So it's like, it's not going to help anyone in the long run if they don't have some new behaviors and systems and mindset in place coming out on the other side to do better again.
Yeah, because I have a story myself, and I was single through this story, but I've been in the financial industry a long time. So before I was a therapist, I was a financial advisor, and I came into the industry just before the financial crash. So I had a couple years in making great money, and because money was so easy back then, it was just coming in. And luckily I did save, and I had quite a few of my clients that had annuities or life insurance. So I had some residual income. But when the market crashed, my business failed eventually. So I ran out of my savings because what I didn't do was change my lifestyle. When my life changed because my business failed, I didn't change my lifestyle. I was still loaning people money out of my savings account. What? It is so ridiculous. But now that I created this assessment called your money mentality, and based on your money mentality, my money mentality was a hero. And I tend to like rescue people, even when I am myself drowning.
Right.
I'm throwing out life jackets. It's like, lady, you need to keep one of those.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm sure you've run into clients who are taking care of all their family members. Maybe they have some survivor's remorse where they're most successful person in their surroundings. So they feel obligated to help everybody.
Yes.
And that was sort of what I was going through, because I did have this like boost of success all at one time because of how the financial industry just rose so quickly, but it fell just as fast. And kind of like you, I was like, well, I don't want people to know that I'm not still living the life.
Yeah.
Much. So when people came to me and they're like, can I borrow? Can you lend me? Can you give? I was like, sure. Here you go. So where I didn't really have to change my mindset around spending so much, because I could sacrifice myself, but I couldn't sacrifice the idea that I wasn't going to be able to help people. And one question that I learned to ask myself, and sometimes I share this with patients and clients, and that is, am I helping or am I pleasing?
Right.
And that was when I learned the difference. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm trying to please. It's not helping anybody for me to try to please people, because the truth is, hey, guys, I don't have a job and my business failed. So, no, I'm sorry. I can't help you.
Yes.
That's a true, authentic answer. And one of the things that drew me to your story was your authenticity, and, that you got to a point where you were able to talk about what was there, and that you just cried through your whole first session, because that's how you felt, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Instead of saying, oh, we're fine, we're going to be fine, it's no problems. No, we're good. So talk a little bit about, okay, so there are two things I want to talk about: your parents, but before we go there, I want to talk about paying your first session on the credit card, because I have patients and clients who do that. And I'm like, I know it sounds counterintuitive that I'm asking you to pay this, but I promise I'm going to give you a plan to get this paid off. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, so that's so funny that you say that, because we have the exact same thing happen. And it's really hard for people, right, that are struggling with money, they're in debt. And then they're like, you want me to put more money on debt to get help? And so we definitely have that conversation regularly, and we went through it. And my husband, I guess for him, it was like really a hard thing to wrap his mind around, that we were going to charge more onto a credit card to try to get some help, when he was like, we don't even have the money to pay for this. Like, how are you going to put us in a worse situation to try to go talk to someone? So yeah, I mean, it was hard, but it was like we had finally reached that point where it was like, we can't do this on our own. Like, we can't just keep doing what we've been doing. We have to look at other options, right? So there was just, for me, there was no question that we had to at least try something, because we'd been trying for 6 months and we'd put $50,000 onto credit cards. And so it was like, you know what, if another couple thousand is going to like change our entire lives, it's well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was it that made you trust Elsa? Tell me about that. What made you just know that this was the person to help you?
I mean, I think having a friend that had referred us, she had shared some of what they had done. So that kind of helped, hearing from another person definitely made it easier, but we still obviously went into it with a lot of reservations.
Right.
My husband specifically, like I said, he was not very happy about doing it. He was very skeptical. And I think going into it, definitely we were able to relate to Kelsa right away. She was very open, I guess, which was such a relief, because we definitely felt like we were going to be judged, that we were going to be told that everything we'd been doing was wrong. We were going to feel like really bad people. And it was very relieving to go and talk to someone that was just like, here's what you can do. Like, these are some steps that you can put into place immediately. And it wasn't, her projecting her own ideas about what we should or shouldn't have done with our money onto us. It was, so it was a huge relief, and gave us a lot of trust and faith that, like, all right, we finally have an action plan. We are not defined by our past mistakes. We can write something new. We just need the plan to go forward.
Awesome. Yeah, that is so cool. Because one, the referral, knowing that somebody else went through it too. And I feel like that's what this show and the show that I heard you on and other shows like that kind of help people see that they're not alone. Somebody else has gone through it. Somebody else has survived it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I did a show back in April, and I think it was episode 5. And one of the couples that I coached, only the wife came to me. So it was even harder, because she had to do it without her husband, hoping that he would get on board. So do you deal with couples when it's just one of the parties and not both of them?
Yeah. I mean, I'll see couples that come in where one is definitely not as on board as the other. In most cases, they'll at least both show up for the first meeting. And then sometimes it doesn't always work that way. But I know that there are instances that, yes, only one's been involved. And it is such a challenge to hope that the other will get on board, because if one's not going to follow along and follow the plan, they could be totally destroying all of the really good efforts of the other, So
yeah. In the case that I specifically just mentioned, the great part was the husband was already trying to put these things in place, but the wife was just so disconnected from the finances, like she never touched them. And
Okay.
so this was kind of her like introduction into what is the plan. I don't even know what the plan is.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So in a way he was happy, but he also shared with me that in a way he was kind of like, oh no, is she going to, get so involved that I'm going to lose my place?
Right. Lose his control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he found early on that it actually felt good. It was like, oh, I'm glad she's learning this and this does help us. And
Right.
so there's so many benefits. It's so many benefits. And I know that a lot of times people are hesitant to go into coaching or financial therapy because they are afraid of pushing through and facing your stuff.
Right. Right.
Right. And changing habits is tough, but
Right.
there's so many benefits that it's like, oh, just please do it because I know what it's going to look like for you. So,
Right.
yeah. What are some of the things that you experience when couples are like, they want to do it, but they're kind of like on that fence? And how do you help them get past that?
I definitely will oftentimes see clients that come in and they have two very differing opinions on where they stand financially. And I always think those are, as a coach, ones that are kind of exciting to tackle, because if they're coming in with two totally different perspectives on how they're doing, it really is that their perspective on money is a matter of opinion, right? So it's not based on anything concrete. It's based on their opinion of how things are. And so I love that through working together, we can very clearly give them something that they can see concretely where they actually are. So it takes the opinion out of the conversation, right? It almost immediately evens the playing field where they can kind of see where each other is coming from right away. It just helps so much to open up their communication with one another, to start to look at their financial future and their choices as more of a team, as seeing how are we actually supporting each other and how are the things that we might be doing independently sabotaging one another or sabotaging our goals that we actually have together. So I love that. I really, it's so fun.
And that's so awesome. We have methods and a lot of our tactics are very in line and a lot of our beliefs are so in line because this is exactly the way that I approach it as well. It's like, this is based on opinion. This is based on, what your parents taught you and what your grandparents taught you. So let's kind of erase that old thinking and what I call that, I mentioned earlier, your money mentality. So let's look at the strengths and challenges of your money mentality and focus on the strengths and maybe delegate your challenges to your partner if possible. But then there's one money mentality that's like the ideal money mentality. And so if I could get them both on board to move towards the ideal money mentality, then it doesn't matter their old money mentality because eventually they both become what's called a president because the name of my company is Presidential Lifestyle. So the last money mentality is the president. And if they're both moving towards becoming a president, then they kind of shed those old habits. And as they shed the old habits when moving towards this new idea, it becomes the marriage money mission. And that's a program that I have. But so there's like this new goal rather than the goal being I'm right and let's do it my way. The new goal is this new mission that we have and let's both go towards this mission. And it sounds like a lot of what you just said and how you. So I think I was really encouraged by Kelsa on the Saver and the Spender. That's the name of the podcast that I was listening to when I heard your story. And so when Kelsa and you were talking, one of the things that stood out was that it sounded like, and you guys are not doing therapy, but it sounds like you're getting to the emotions and it's not just about the money. And I think that's what a lot of people misconceive when they hear about financial coaching or financial therapy. They're thinking that it's all about the numbers, but that's almost so little of it. It's really about mindset and your heart and your emotions. What would you say about that?
Yeah. Oh, definitely so much. We always say there's kind of 3 stages to, your money evolution, I guess. And it starts with having a system, right? So that's the part that people think about, right? Is that it's about the numbers and learning a new way to budget. And that's really only the very first bottom layer. Like you need to have some system in place, but so much of coaching is all of the things that happen after that. Like, how do you actually use it? How does it develop your behaviors? How does it change the way that you think about your life, about the choices that you make? You know, we do tons of work with just, especially with couples, but with individuals too. Like, what are your values? Because ultimately, your money needs to be supporting your values for your life to feel worthy and for you to feel like you are living the life that you want. So we need to make sure that the money is going towards those values and not towards things that are derailing you from reaching the things that are important. I mean, that's so much of what we wind up doing. And oftentimes we'll see that, you know, people they begin the system, they see time after time after time that they start to begin making really good choices with what they're doing with their money. And so those behaviors very naturally change, where they may have been impulsive about going out on a shopping spree, and now they're very intentional with what they're doing. And they always feel so confident knowing that when they spend money, it's not derailing them from their goals. And that's when the mindset starts to happen. It's like it kind of is a natural evolution for the clients that we work with, that they start to have so much faith and belief that they always are making good choices, that then they start to just really open their mind up to what the possibilities are and how much they really can achieve. It's awesome.
It really
so
is.
fun.
And I love that you use the word intentional, because that's part of my idea of prosperity. It is very intentional, but also pretty freeing, because I think when people think about having a system, they feel constraints. You know, they're like, oh, then now we're not going to be able to have fun. But actually, by having the system, it allows you more freedom, because you already know what to do when.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So I did say I want to ask you about your parents and that thing that happened with your parents. But I also, after that, want to ask you about you becoming a coach, because obviously when you were working those 70 hours, you were not a financial coach. So that's the next thing we're going to talk about.
So many good things still.
Yes. So tell us the story about, you borrowed money from your parents, and then I guess you were paying it back, but then you kind of stopped paying it back, and then they never asked you for it. So they're so sweet.
I know. Oh my gosh. I am so, so blessed. Honestly, my parents are amazing. Yeah. So the story with my parents goes that they bailed me out twice of credit card debt while I was in college. So you see the recurring theme. Obviously, I did not have a good system for managing money, or any system whatsoever, as I was a young adult. Continued to make foolish choices, and they bailed me out twice. So I owed them about $25,000. And when I had graduated from college, I started making payments back to them. Well, then everything happened with Matt and I and his job, and we racking up more debt. So I had to call them, you know, again, crying, telling them like, we can't pay you. I'm so sorry. Like, we're in a pile right now, you know. And they were so gracious and said, just put it on hold for right now. Take care of your guys' life first. You know, they were so good. And we had stopped making payments to them, which I had a lot of guilt around, because I knew that they had helped before, and now they, you know, they're getting older, heading into retirement, like absolutely they can use the money. So I had a lot of hangups around like not having paid them back yet.
Right. Because your parents weren't the Rockefellers, right?
No, they were not, you know. And
so they still needed it.
They could
like,
still
it
use it.
Yeah, they could still use it.
Who couldn't use $25,000? I think we would all gladly accept it if someone would.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So they had been very kind and understanding about just holding off. So as Matt and I got started with coaching and started paying off all of our credit card debt, we managed to pay off our $50,000 within the first 15 months. And the next big thing was paying my parents back. Like I said, you know, the goal for the coming year is that we absolutely have to pay them back, because I want more than anything to just show them how grateful we were for them, for all of the help that they'd offered over the years. And it kind of proved to them that like, we're going to be okay now. Like we figured out a better way. And I wanted it to kind of be very evident to them that life was different for us, that we weren't going to go down that road again.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to tell them, like, I was like, I don't want to just like start sending monthly payments again. Like right now they aren't expecting anything. Everything was on hold. And so I said, this would be a really great time to just surprise them with like a really big amount of money that they're not expecting, because it'll make it more fun for us while we're working towards it, and more fun for them to receive it, you know, as this big lump sum surprise. So we had set the goal of saving $10,000. We said, okay, we're going to break it down a little bit because I don't want to wait like an entire year. I want to give them something. So we said, when we hit 10,000, we're going to send them $10,000. So I like to be creative and come up with fun ways to do it. And I was like, it'll be so boring just to send them a check or like to transfer $10,000 or whatever. I said, we have to do something cool. So we decided to write a check, but put it inside of a piggy bank. And I found this like really disgusting looking piggy bank on Amazon. It was a cowboy boot, and it had like cactuses and the desert like painted all over it. It was not beautiful. Like I can imagine that there could be a beautiful one with cactuses on it, but this was not it.
That's the one.
This is not the one. It was really disgusting. But when I saw it, it just like made me laugh so much that I was like, that has to be the one.
Okay.
So we got this piggy bank and we put the check in it, and we super glued shut the opening so that they couldn't get the opening off. And so we packaged that all up and we mailed it to my parents. And I had told my brother, I said, there's a present coming for mom and dad. And when they open it, you know, can you be there and try to record it? Because I really want to see what happens. So he sent me the video recording, and it was of them, you know, they opened it up, and my mother was like, oh, it's so cute. So they're reading the card, and I don't remember what I had written, but something about how like we'd been kicking debt's butt, and now, you know, it's time to break the bank or something like that. And so I had like inferred that they need to break open the piggy bank, right? It was this long drawn out, like my mom going, no, we can't break it. It's so cute. And my dad's like, I think we're supposed to break this. So it was a whole ordeal, but they wound up getting a hammer and breaking the piggy bank open, and seeing their reaction of opening it and pulling out that check for $10,000 that they totally were not expecting. I mean, they were in tears. I'm going to be in tears again thinking about it, but I'm a crier, obviously. But it was just such an amazing moment. Like it felt like such a relief and so good to be able to do that, even though it was money we owed them. Like it just felt so amazing.
And I mean, quite honestly, this is what I teach my clients, is that when you loan money out, just don't expect it back. Just put that in your gift, like, because that's the section, just include that in gifts. So it could have been a part of them that thought that they may not be getting paid back.
Right.
Yeah, just because they just said, you know what, she's trying so hard, let's just let that go. And instead, they get this huge surprise. So I can imagine it was emotional, and they probably were really, really proud of you for just being able to accomplish that. That was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. It was amazing. And it was cool because we managed to pay the full $25,000 that year. We did like another fun gift of $5,000 and then another one of $10,000, and did creative things every time that we did it. So it was just a really fun year of like paying off that debt and helping to support my parents and thank them for all of their help. So
yay, that is so cool. So I want to ask you about some of your go-to resources, and then I also want to ask you about your coaching program. But I'm wondering if you have any ideas around how your parents' kindness maybe contributed to your habit of getting back into debt. Have you thought any about that?
Oh gosh, I guess I haven't really thought about that, but it's probably I mean, it definitely did not teach me anything. I've thought about that, is that, they had come to my rescue and I was grateful and so glad that they were able to do it. But by them doing that, I didn't learn anything.
Right.
I learned a cycle of like being ashamed maybe for the things that I did and then groveling, asking for help.
To the one people you could be honest with.
Yeah. It's like two are your family. It's the one person that's going to kind of see it all, the good, the bad, and the otherwise. So that, they bailed me out, and then I went and I did it all over again because I never learned any other way. Like it was just the way that I handled money and the way that I lived my life. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And so it's like they bailed me out and then I went and did it again. And then they bailed me out. And then look what happened. I went and did it again.
Yeah.
Before I finally was like, this isn't working.
Enough is enough. Right.
It's working. Third time's the charm, I guess, because like we got to figure something out here. Like we are adults now. This is not okay. It's time.
Absolutely. I bring that up because I do have clients where these are older clients that are taking care of their children, and the children are a big expense, and these are grown children. And so, trying to get them to see how they're contributing to, like, well, you're not teaching them responsibility by, continuing to build them out. Why don't you either get them in this program or you yourself,
right?
Kind of give them some tools, because a lot of times when people come to me and they have been good stewards of their money in the sense that they earn well and even grow their money, sometimes what they're not doing well is protecting their money.
Right. Oh, yes.
Yeah. In the area that I'm in, I work with kind of affluent clients. And two of the things that I come up against a lot is not about earning money, and it's not even about growing their money. It's about protecting their money and enjoying their money.
Yes.
Those are the two. And so people come to me because of the therapy side, and that we find the financial challenge in there. They're usually coming because they're stressed out or anxious or, just dissatisfied with life. And like, I don't understand. I make all this money and I'm still dissatisfied with life. And I was like, well, let me show you how money can buy happiness.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's not in and of itself. People think, okay, so I earn money, I should be happy, right? It's like, no, it's a whole lifestyle that has to go along with that. And you talked about that in your idea of prosperity, that growth and that well-being go in there too. Yeah. So outside of your program, what would you say is a go-to resource that you often recommend to people?
Oh, goodness. I mean, obviously there's so many great books out there. So I think for anyone that's just wanting to begin to dive into finances and to learn more, Think and Grow Rich, The Millionaire Next Door, Dave Ramsey has a good one. Yes. I don't totally love his program. My husband and I tried going through it twice. So we didn't find it something that we could stick to, but he's got a lot of really great ideas. And I think the book is really good.
And part of that is because it doesn't change the mindset, because the system is set up so that you don't have to change your mindset. You just follow the system.
Right. Yes. Right. Which is long-term not going to work.
Exactly.
Well. Yeah.
Actually, the couple that I talked about who I interviewed in April, they had gone through the Dave Ramsey thing, but they hadn't changed their patterns. They hadn't changed anything. And I don't dislike the Dave Ramsey. I think it works where it works.
Right.
And he's definitely reached millions of people and helped millions of people. But for this particular couple and couples like that, and like you and like me, where we really want to get down to the mindset, let's get the habit out of there.
Right.
They were trying to figure out why they were still in their hearts wanting to do the same thing. Now they weren't doing it, so they felt constrained and powerless.
Conflicted around it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was all that conflict, and that it does not sit well. So she also was a therapist, and actually that's how we met. So she started talking to me about this conflict, and her husband is a minister. And so they also had this conflict, like, well, maybe we're not supposed to make a lot of money because I'm a therapist, which I should be doing this to help people. And he's a minister and, he doesn't do this for money. Right. So there was all of that. And then there's this Dave Ramsey system that was kind of constraining them and they were so confused.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So I agree. There's so many good resources out there, so many good books. One of the resources that I recommend a lot is Tony Robbins' book, Unshakable. So he has to money master the game, but money master the game is huge and it's a little bit confusing if you don't have some sort of background in money. But Unshakable, he breaks it down a little bit more and it's a smaller book. And if you listen to it on audio, it's even easier. So that's a good resource too. But you're right. There are tons of books out there. So sometimes people aren't quite ready for coaching, which is why I asked that question and maybe just want to get your feet wet and start getting your mind wrapped around the fact that you do need some help and you do need to talk about this thing. And maybe reading a book is going to push you in that direction. So once they read the book and they get there and they want to go to coaching, so if they go to you, how does one start coaching with you? Because I know you're in Arizona, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it sounds like you work one-on-one with people, but you also do virtual. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. So I would say that probably most of my clients are all over the country. I mean, we've got plenty of local, but everything is virtual. So I work with people from all over everywhere. So it's really fun to always get to connect. Gotta love technology, right?
Yes.
So I mean, when a client is thinking about starting coaching, they can always reach out to the office. We can do like a 15-minute Q&A just so they can ask some questions about what we do, how the process works, all of that. But everyone starts in the same place. So we have a 2-hour session initially that's called our Eureka session. And this is really where we dive really deep into maybe why the systems they haven't worked before have failed, or the systems they've tried before have failed them. And then why what we do is a little different, kind of the overview of how it works. And then we really dive into looking specifically at their life, their numbers, what changes we can make. So they walk away from that with some very actionable steps that they can put into place right away. Everyone starts there. So we'll have some clients that really all they need is just an action plan, right? Like they're like, I have the mindset, I'm ready to be there, but like I'm struggling with figuring out like, how do I just get everything organized and what do I do to make sure that I'm hitting my goals? And they just need a little bit of refinement around that. Some will walk away and that's all that they needed and they're totally set to just rock it on their own. And then there's other clients that have the desire for more behavioral changes and the longer term impact and wanting to see the mindset come with it and really wanting to just change their life, right? Change the way that they handle things. And so those clients will wind up coaching with us more long term. And it really depends just on exactly what the client's looking for at that point.
Right.
But I love those long-term clients. They are like where all the magic happens. It's so fun to like see the transformation of like how frustrated and stressed they are when they come in. And then even just a couple of months in to see them start like really being excited about things and like starting to talk differently. And it's amazing. It feels so fulfilling to help other people go through that because I walked through it. Like I know what it's like to be on the other side. So it is so amazing to help others to kind of get over that hump.
That's what's so incredible about your story. And I want to talk about that. How did you go into coaching? Because at one point you were something else, you were doing whatever you're doing for 70 hours a week. And then I guess you just fell in love with it so much that so tell us about that.
Oh goodness. Yes. So my background was in pharmacy. I have my doctor of pharmacy degree. And so I've worked in healthcare for almost 20 years. And honestly, like I think about this so often and it's really been top of mind, even just this last week, because my husband and I have been doing a lot of reflecting and gratitude talks. And so I think about, I had gotten into the industry really for reasons that had nothing to do with passion and with what I really wanted to do with my life. It was like this is what's expected to be a successful person. You go to school and you get your degree and you go get a corporate job and move up the ladder. And I always felt unfulfilled, especially during that time, working 60, 70 hours a week. It's like doing something that I wasn't fulfilled in. It was a means to an end. And so I'm very grateful for it in hindsight. I'm like, it was our way of transitioning and getting us out and turning everything around. But after going through financial coaching ourselves and seeing what a dramatic change we went through, we had improved our net worth by like $85,000 in the first year. It was amazing to see, like, wow, when you put your mind to it, you can totally do amazing things. I was so excited by it, and I felt so much relief, and so much stress was gone from our lives. And we were finally able to set goals and set dreams and start to actually see them happen. Whereas before they were just these far off wishes, of like someday, but it became so much more concrete. And so I was like shouting from the rooftops, telling everyone, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Everyone thought I was a crazy woman, but anytime I would hear people stressing about money, talking about arguments that they were having with their spouse or their partner about money, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, I've totally got the solution for you. You need to go over to Physical Fitness. You need to talk to them. And then they were like, well, can't I just come talk to you? Can you show me what you've been doing? So I was like, well, I guess I can. Like, I kind of felt a little weird about it. I was like, sure, I guess. Who am I to show you? But as I started talking to more and more people, I was like, wow, I love this. Like, I feel so alive being able to help other people through this and help them through their challenges. And in that time, Kelsa and I had become really good friends, and her business was growing, and she knew that I was extremely passionate about it and that I'd been talking to other people. And she was like, you need to come over here. Like, we need you. We need another coach.
Oh, wow.
So it was, it was so awesome. It was really amazing. It's like very cool to see everything come full circle, knowing that I had started there. And that's where our life really changed, is because of everything that we learned from Physical Fitness. And then to be able to be on the other side now and helping others to go through the same thing that we did is just, it's amazing. It's so awesome.
Especially because you went from the secrecy to, full disclosure, open. Oh, let me tell you, let me help you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a huge transition. I so look forward to when I add more coaches. So having somebody with the amount of passion that you have, especially somebody who's gone through it, which is part of what is giving you that passion.
Right.
But to bring on board another coach would be an honor. So I can imagine how Kelsa feels, like bringing you on to the team, but also watching you grow as a coach. She's seen you through so far. I'm sure it's awesome for her too.
Yeah. She's seen her little duckling grow up. No.
So I have one more question, one of my favorite questions for you. And that is, what is the best marriage advice you ever received, or the advice you wish somebody would have told you?
Oh, so when we were going through probably some of our most challenging months, we had talked about this earlier, that I had had a lot of thoughts of like, oh my gosh, are we going to survive this? Like, what is going to happen to our relationship, to our marriage, to our children, And I was like, I need to do something. Like, I can control me and I can control my thoughts. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is start listening to some audiobooks. So another resource that I would share with people is like audiobooks and podcasts are so amazing for just shifting the way that you're thinking.
Yes.
And so I was like, I am like going to download every marriage and relationship book that I can find on audiobook from the library. And I'm just going to listen to it all day while I'm at work or in the car or whenever I have a chance to listen. And so I had started listening to a bunch of different relationship books, and I can't remember which one it was in at this point, but I had heard a book where they talked about how marriage and relationships are like the seasons. it can start in the spring and everything is so fresh and so exciting and new and, that new growth. And then it turns into the summer and things are like really hot and passion is flowing and like, it's just amazing. It feels like you never want it to end. And then there's the fall where, things kind of start to cool off a little bit and maybe not feeling quite as much of that passion as you had. Yeah. And then there's the winter, right, where everything is dead. And I definitely felt like we were in the winter at that point. Like I was like, oh my gosh, we are there. And this book talked about just know that spring is on the other side.
Oh, I love that.
And it was just one of the best things that I'd ever heard because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I needed. Like, I definitely know that God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, like delivers us what we need to hear when we need it. And in that moment, that was so profound for me to be like, I'm not stopping here in the winter. Like, there's no way this is where it ends.
Ah, love it. Yes. I'm not stopping in the winter. I love that. Yay. That is so cool. I wish we could think of what book it was.
I know.
If you do, let me know. But if not, at least we know that we have that part because that is such good advice.
It was great.
And I know it can help so many people and so many things that we've talked about today, I imagine are going to be helpful, just hearing your story overall, but really getting down to some of the things we talked about, like with your parents and that bailout, and just really taking control. Like you finally did call somebody because that was a big step. That was the step,
Yep.
And then recognizing that you guys were in that, like, you got to quit your job. Like, you're stressed. I might lose you. You can't be holding your chest, like, I know what that leads to. Right. So all of these like aha moments that I'm hoping that people take away something from their own lives, because so many people are experiencing really what you experienced. And also some of the story that I told, what I experienced. So by talking about it, like you said, on these podcasts, we can connect with each other because we're all going through different things. And if we just share it, we could learn from each other. It's like,
yes, exactly. I always feel like that, money is such a taboo topic. No one wants to talk about it, but the problem is that we don't talk about it. So I always feel like if people were willing to just put themselves out there and have more open dialogue around it, we probably would all be more better off for it.
Yes. Let's just talk about it. My coach, I actually have a coach and therapist myself, and she says money is a conversation. That's like one of her things that I now say. So money is a conversation. And I find that especially in the therapy industry, and I'm sure there are other industries as well, that we don't always want to talk about the dollars associated with a situation. But let's face it, many of life's stuff has a dollar sign associated with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's not a piece of paper in your house that you are not going to pick up. It has a dollar sign.
Yep.
Especially when you start adding children to the mix, marriage and then children. Yeah. So it's just like life is about, it costs, right? And although they say the best things in life are free, only a few of those, because all the rest of it, like water and food.
Right.
It costs. So there was a comedian who joked around and said, eventually they'll start charging for air.
We may not be too far from that. Who knows, right?
Right. With the climate thing.
Right. Oh.
Yes. So I'm so excited that we had this conversation. I'm glad we are getting to know each other, because I think that people like you and people like me out in the world, helping people see that money is just a conversation, and that if couples can talk about money easier and get to their idea of prosperity, then like life in general can just be so much better.
Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing this mission with me, and thank you for coming on the podcast, because I hunted you down.
Thank you. I'm glad that you did. No, it was so fun. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. So tell everybody, if they are interested in coaching with you or just wanting to connect with you, what are some of the ways that they can connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. So if you are interested in coaching, you can always check us out on our website, which is Fiscal Fitness. So FISCAL Fitness and PHX.com. So you can go there and you can look us up, read a little more about what we do, and you can book a session or a Q&A call through there, or you can always call the office. I also am on social media, so I would love for anyone to pop over, say hello. I'm on Facebook or Instagram at Hey Jill Emanuel, so HEYJILLEMANUEL. So yeah, I would love to hear from people. I would love some feedback, and if any of what we talked about today was meaningful and impactful, I really hope to help inspire some other people to, take charge of their finances and improve their relationships.
Absolutely. So yes, I am not the only coach or therapist out there. Jill Emanuel is another. And if you want to get to know her, you can go on her social media. We'll put the links in the show notes. If you are really interested in starting coaching, you might even want to reach out to her just to get that question answer session and see if it's right for you. All right. So thank you guys for joining us. Well, guys, that's our episode for today. But before we go to our 5-minute activation, I promised you I'd tell you how to become a prosperous couple. So as I said before, it takes 2 powerful people to become a power couple. And we'd love to have you and your partner join the Prosperity Club. Whether you want to start with the free version or jump right into the paid membership, it's a great value for your time and money. And it's really important that you both join because they're questionnaires and things you're going to complete that you'll have the answers to. But what's awesome is that you can share it with your partner so that you guys can get to know each other better in love and money. So for just $97, you get the Prosperity Club annual membership. You get 5-day Prosperity Challenge. You'll get Crash Course in Prosperity's 7-day course. You'll also get the Prosperity Club monthly activities and accountability emails. And then you get the private Facebook group. So only the special insiders get special offers on the Prosperity Club membership and new courses that come out. So you got to join the private Facebook group. So go to KeneQuarter.com/Facebook to join the private Facebook group. And then go to KeneQuarter.com/prosperity-club to get your membership today. That's KeneQuarter.com/prosperity-club. But all of that will be in the show notes. So go ahead and check them out. And I'll see you in the club. It's time for 5-minute activation, a quick financial therapy session to get you activated and on your way to increasing the love and money in your marriage. So can I get 5 minutes of your time? Just 5 minutes for a financial therapy activation.
Today's 5-minute activation is all about owning your shift. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? If you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you're making a shift from where you are to where you want to be. And wherever you are in that journey, you've got to own that place in this moment. Don't worry about the past and how you used to be, and don't worry about the future and how you will be. Just focus on where you are, because it's easier to get to where you're going if you know where you're starting. If you ask anybody for directions, the first thing they're going to ask you is, well, where are you coming from? So you've got to know. Today, I encourage you to give some thought to where you are right now. What are your finances like? What is your idea of prosperity? Where are you right now? Are you in debt? Are you still gathering up all the information to determine your financial situation? Have you already gotten started on your journey? Maybe done some saving, maybe paid off some debt, but still have a ways to go? Are you so close to your goal you can taste it, you can feel it? All of those are okay. Wherever you're starting from, there is no judgment. It doesn't matter. Just know where you are. Notice where you are. Because if you don't notice where you are, it's easy to either get off the path or to end up back where you started. And sometimes back where you started is in denial. Because maybe you say, hey, I haven't even gathered my financial inventory yet. I just know that I need to make some shifts. Well, at least you know you're past the not know stage. Because if you think about it in change, there's that unconscious stage, the stage where you're just not conscious of what you need to do. There's that stage when you don't know what you don't know. Then there's that kind of pre-conscious where you're starting to feel like, something is not right. I don't know what it is yet, but I know it's not right. And then you go to, oh, that's what it is. And you're conscious, but maybe you don't know what to do just yet. That's okay too, because you'll keep doing the work to find out. Because then you go to that action stage. Not only do I know what patterns I've been doing that are no longer serving me, I also know what to do in order to adjust them. So you go into action and you begin to shift. And as you shift and keep owning your shift in every part of the shift, you become stronger, more aware, and you reach your goal faster. Give yourself some credit. Give yourself some credit for each step of the way. Baby steps count too. But also give yourself permission to be where you are. Because sometimes we focus on where we're not. And you've heard me say it, what you focus on expands. So if you're focused on where you're not, you're going to get more of not being there. If you're focused on where you are, celebrate, be grateful for the steps you've taken, whatever they are, big or small, and commit to continuing to step. You then own your shift and you can continue to soar and raise your prosperity consciousness. So whether you're in the Prosperity Club or not, there's work to be done, either on your own or in the community. So commit to it, stick to it, and own it. So let me recap. Owning your shift is all about being authentic. And the best way to do that is examine where you are. Once you examine where you are, we call that awareness. Then you're going to accept it. Acceptance is the ownership, because you don't have to stay where you are. You just have to know where you are so you can go where you're going. And I will see you there. And it doesn't have to be lonely at the top. You can take people with you. And I'm taking you with me. And I encourage you to invite a friend or two. I'll see you at the top. And that's our 5-minute activation for today.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to KeneCorder.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.